What if I told you that hosting a World Cup is one of the biggest gambles a country can make? Not a football gamble, not a sporting gamble, a financial gamble. Because when Mexico agreed to help host the 2026 FIFA World Cup, the headlines were predictable. Celebration, excitement, national pride, the return of the biggest tournament in football. But behind the celebrations sits a much bigger question. A question economists, politicians, and football fans have been debating for decades. What if the World Cup doesn't make you richer? What if it costs far more than anyone expected? And what if Mexico is taking $1 billion gamble on a tournament that could change the country forever? Before we begin, I want to ask you something. If your country had the chance to host a World Cup tomorrow, would you support it no matter the cost? Or would you want to know exactly where the money is going? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy football documentaries that explore the business, politics, and hidden side of the game, make sure you subscribe, because this story is much bigger than football. For most supporters, the World Cup looks simple. Packed stadiums, global audiences, tourist-filling cities, national pride, the world's biggest sporting event arriving at your doorstep. And on paper, hosting sounds like an easy win. Millions of visitors, billions in economic activity, global exposure, international attention. What's not to like? Well, history, because history tells a far more complicated story. For decades, countries have spent enormous amounts of money chasing the World Cup dream. Some celebrated afterwards. Others spent years asking whether it was worth it. Mexico understands this better than most. This will be the third World Cup hosted by Mexico, and now 2026. No country has hosted 3 men's World Cups before. That alone tells you how important football is to the country, but it also tells you something else. Mexico knows exactly what hosting requires and what it costs. The difference this time is scale. World Cup 2026 will be the largest World Cup in history. 48 teams, 104 matches, 3 host nations, millions of traveling supporters, billions watching worldwide. The tournament is becoming bigger than ever before, and bigger tournaments require bigger investments. That's where the financial gamble begins. Because while FIFA earns billions from broadcasting rights, sponsorships, hospitality packages, and ticket sales, host nations often carry many of the costs. Transport systems, security, infrastructure upgrades, airport improvements, urban development projects, tourism preparation, operational planning. The bill adds up quickly, very quickly. Now, to be fair, Mexico is in a stronger position than many previous hosts. Unlike Qatar, unlike Russia, unlike South Africa, Mexico already possesses football infrastructure. The country already has major stadiums. Football culture already exists. The fan base already exists. The tournament isn't being built from scratch. That reduces risk significantly. But it doesn't eliminate risk, because hosting a World Cup in 2026 isn't just about stadiums. It's about experience. FIFA's expectations have never been higher. Fans expect modern transport, safe environments, efficient travel, reliable accommodation, premium services, global broadcasting standards. Every detail matters, and every detail costs money. That's why economists often separate World Cup spending into 2 categories: visible costs and hidden costs. Visible costs are easy to see: stadium renovations, transport upgrades, infrastructure projects, government spending announcements. The hidden costs are harder to measure: lost opportunities, resources diverted from other priorities, long-term maintenance expenses, operational budgets, security requirements, economic risks. Those are the numbers that often create controversy after tournaments end, because supporters remember goals, governments remember invoices, and that brings us to one of the biggest myths surrounding World Cups: the belief that every host automatically becomes richer. The reality is far more complicated. Some cities benefit enormously. Hotels thrive, restaurants thrive, tourism surges, local businesses see increased activity. But economists have repeatedly found that projected benefits often exceed actual benefits. Not always, but often. Why? Because forecasting World Cup economics is extremely difficult. Some tourists avoid host cities because of congestion. Some regular visitors stay away. Some expected spending never materializes. And some infrastructure projects cost more than expected. Sound familiar? It happens all over the world. Every major sporting event faces the same challenge. Promises before the tournament. Reality after the tournament. Mexico hopes to be one of the success stories. And there are reasons for optimism. Unlike many previous hosts, Mexico shares a burden. The United States and Canada are co-hosts. Costs are distributed. Infrastructure demands are spread across 3 countries. That dramatically reduces pressure compared to a single host model. But it also creates new challenges. Coordination, logistics, cross-border travel, security cooperation, fan movement, operational consistency. Managing one host country is difficult. Managing 3 is unprecedented. And that's why World Cup 2026 is such a fascinating experiment. Because FIFA isn't simply testing a new tournament format. It's testing a new hosting model. A model designed to reduce financial risk while maximizing commercial opportunity. From FIFA's perspective, it's brilliant. More matches, more tickets, more sponsorship inventory, more television revenue, more hospitality sales. The tournament generates more money than ever before. Which brings us to the uncomfortable question, who benefits the most? Because whenever billions of dollars are involved, someone wins. Broadcasters win. Sponsors win. Hospitality providers win. Tourism industries win. FIFA wins. The organization expects record revenues from the 2026 cycle, potentially over $13 billion, nearly double previous World Cup cycles. Those numbers are staggering, and they explain why expansion happened in the first place. More teams create more matches. More matches create more inventory. More inventory creates more revenue. Simple. But here's where Mexico's gamble becomes interesting. Because Mexico isn't chasing FIFA's revenue. Mexico is chasing something harder to measure. Legacy, national prestige, global visibility, long-term tourism growth, economic momentum. The belief that hosting the World Cup creates opportunities beyond the tournament itself. And sometimes that works. Barcelona used the Olympics to transform its international image. Germany used the 2006 World Cup to redefine perceptions globally. Major sporting events can leave lasting positive impacts, but there are no guarantees. That's why hosting remains a gamble, a calculated gamble, but a gamble nonetheless. And then there's another layer. Politics. Because major sporting events and politics have always been connected. World Cups become symbols. Governments embrace them. Leaders promote them. National identity becomes attached to them. Success becomes political. Failure becomes political. That's especially true when public money is involved. If infrastructure succeeds, politicians celebrate. If costs rise unexpectedly, criticism follows. That's the reality of hosting. Every decision is scrutinized. Every dollar is questioned. Every promise is remembered, which is why Mexico's World Cup journey matters far beyond football. Because the country is effectively making a bet that investment today creates benefits tomorrow, a bet that tourism grows, a bet that international exposure matters, a bet that football can generate opportunities beyond 90 minutes. Maybe they're right. Maybe World Cup 2026 becomes one of the most successful tournaments ever. Maybe Mexico City's experience economic growth. Maybe tourism records are broken. Maybe the infrastructure improvements create long-term benefits. Those outcomes are entirely possible. But that's what makes it a gamble. Nothing is guaranteed. Not in football, and not in economics. As kickoff approaches, millions of supporters will focus on goals, trophies, and unforgettable moments. That's what football fans should do. But behind every celebration sits a much bigger story. A story involving billions of dollars, political calculations, economic forecasts, corporate interests, and decisions that will influence host cities long after the final whistle. Because while players gamble with matches, countries gamble with World Cups. And in 2026, Mexico is making one of the biggest bets in football history. The question isn't whether the World Cup will be successful. The question is who will benefit the most when it's over.